Hello, I am Aaron Caldwell, and this is a demonstration video of my Pokémon Shiny Tracker app for Android devices. For those who are unfamiliar with Pokémon and shiny hunting is the process of intentionally encountering Pokémon repeatedly until a shiny, which is a rare variant of a Pokémon with an alternate color palette, is encountered. Many shiny hunters, such as myself, like to keep track of the number of encounters each of our shiny hunts takes to complete. I was previously doing this using a generic tally app, but I eventually realized how convenient it would be if I could keep track of additional information, such as which games all of my shinies are currently located in. So that's why I decided to develop this Android app, to provide shiny hunters with a way to log all of their shiny hunts in a more convenient manner. So when you open the app for the first time, it'll tell you that you have no saved shiny hunts. And there's also all these buttons at the top, which I'll explain in more detail later. But for now, we're interested in the plus button, which lets you create a new shiny hunt log. And as you can see, there's a lot of different fields that you can fill out for the shiny hunt. If I try to save right now, it'll tell me that I need to select a Pokemon before saving. So I decided to make the Pokemon be the only required field for creating a shiny hunt log, and all of the other fields are entirely optional. So let's try selecting a Pokemon by clicking the Pokeball button. It'll display a dialog here with a list of every Pokemon in the National Dex, going all the way up to Generation 9 at the moment. You can scroll through the list, or you can use the search bar at the top, since the list is very long. So for example, let's say I'm shiny hunting for Unknown. As I type in the search bar, you can see that it automatically filters the list. And in this case, it only shows Articuno and Unknown, since they're the only two Pokemon with U and O in their names. So once you select a Pokemon from the list, it'll display it on the page here. And for Pokemon with multiple forms, it'll display these two arrows to let you switch between the forms. So let's say I want to shiny hunt for Shiny Unknown I. The next field here is the nickname, which you can fill out if you have a nickname for the shiny. I'll show here that if I spam letters, there's a maximum character length of 12 to accurately reflect the maximum nickname length in Pokemon games. The next field here is the date that you began the shiny hunt. So clicking the calendar button will display this dialog where you can select a date. So I'll use today's date as an example. And then it'll display the date here with a X button if you need to unselect the date, like that. The next field here is the origin game, which is the game where you were shiny hunting in. So let's say I'm shiny hunting Unknown in Pokemon Diamond. It'll display the icon here with the unselect button. These next two fields are pretty straightforward. The location lets you specify the in-game location that you're shiny hunting in. So for this shiny hunt, it would be in the Solacean Ruins. And then method is just to specify what shiny hunting method you're using. So for this one, it would be Wild Encounters. The next field is the counter, which is where you keep track of the number of encounters you have performed in the shiny hunt. You can change the counter value using the increment and decrement buttons, or you can type directly into the text field. And what I'll show here is that there's a maximum value, and this is to prevent integer overflow from occurring. And then there's also a minimum value of 0, since you obviously can't have a negative number of encounters. And this third button here is the counter multiplier. And what this is for is it lets you set the amount that the increment and decrement buttons changes the counter value by. And this is very handy if you're doing a shiny hunt that involves multiple encounters at the same time. So that would be like if you're doing horde encounters in Generation 6 games, or if you're just shiny hunting on multiple devices at the same time. So I can, for example, I can set the counter multiplier to 5. And as you can see here, these buttons will now change the counter by steps of 5. Next is the phase, which functions similarly to the counter, but it has a different use case. So what a phase is in shiny hunting is basically it's when you find a shiny that is different from your intended target. So let's say I'm shiny hunting unknown I, but I end up finding a shiny unknown H instead. If I decide to catch the unknown H, I can just change the form here. But if I decide to not catch the unknown H and continue my shiny hunt for unknown I, that is where I would increment the phase. Because of how rarely you would need to change the phase value, I didn't bother making a multiplier for it. This next section here is the notes, and this is just in case you want to keep track of any other information that isn't supported by the app. So an example would be if I'm shiny hunting the unknown in Diamond and Pearl, but the app only lets me select one game. In the notes section, I could write a note that I'm dual hunting in Diamond and Pearl. And then if I find the shiny in Pokemon Pearl instead of Diamond, I can just update it here. At the bottom here is a checkbox that you can click once you've completed the shiny hunt. For now, I'm not going to do that. I will just save the shiny hunt. And as you can see, it now appears on the home page, and it shows the image of the Pokemon, the name of the Pokemon, the origin game, and the counter, which you can control here. And as you can also see up here is the counter multiplier. So the counter multiplier is actually globally available to all of the shiny hunts on this screen, although I only have one at the moment. And also, if I didn't specify a nickname for the Pokemon, it will just use the species name by default. And then also, you can expand the shiny hunts in this homepage by either long clicking them, or if you had multiple shiny hunt logs on here, you can also click this expand all button. So when you expand a shiny hunt, it'll show you these two options. The trash can is the delete option, and the pencil is the edit option, which will take you back to this page. And notice now there's a delete option here as well, since this is a pre-existing hunt now. If I were to create a new hunt, you can see there's no delete option. So from here, you can make any changes that you need to. For example, let's say I completed my shiny hunt, and I can click the checkbox. That'll update the background with a gold gradient, and then if I scroll down, it'll also open these two extra fields. This one is the finish date for when you completed the hunt. Let's say I completed it on September 25. And then this one is the current game in case you transfer the Pokemon to a different game. So let's say I caught it in Diamond, but then I transferred it up to Pokemon Home. So once you're done making all of your changes, you can click the save button. But before I do that, I want to show that if you click the back button, it'll actually detect if you have unsaved changes. So if I click yes here, it'll take me back to the home page without committing the changes. But let's go back and actually commit the changes. So now I can click the save button and it'll show the updated shiny hunt here with the new background color and the current game. So I'm briefly going to cut the video to insert some mock data. So these are some of my personal shiny hunts. So since we now have multiple shiny hunts saved, when I click expand all, you can see that each of them now have 2 additional options, and these buttons are just for rearranging the shiny hunts if you need to. So I can move them up or down. Next up we have sorting. So if I click this button here with the 3 bars, it'll open the sort menu. And this is where you can select a sorting method and a sort order. So the available sorting methods are default, start date, finish date, name, and generation. The default sorting method, by the way, it just follows the order that you created the shiny hunt logs in, but it's also the only sorting method that lets you rearrange the shiny hunts, as I showed earlier. So let's say I want to sort by name and ascending order. So what this will do is it'll sort the shiny hunts in alphabetical order of Pokemon names. So as you can see, it sorted them in alphabetical order. But I do want to note that the name sorting method uses the species name and not the nickname. So that's why this Flaffy here is between Diggersby and Furret, even though its nickname is Cotton Candy. And then same with this Miltank being between Landorus and Moltres. I can also demonstrate sorting by generation. And as you can see, it sorts them in Pokédex number order, starting with Generation 1 Pokemon at the top, and then it goes all the way down to Generation 7 at the bottom. Oh, and you can also notice that for all of these other sorting methods, it removed the move arrows. But if I go back to default, you'll see the arrows again. So finally, we have the filters. So if you click this funnel button here, it'll open the filter menu, which contains a lot of different filter options. I can start off with the Pokemon filters, which will open a similar dialog to the Pokemon selection from before. But this one, it allows you to select multiple Pokemon. So let's say I want to filter for Landorus, Zekrom, and Reshiram. So as you can see, when you select a Pokemon, it'll add them to this list up here. And then this allows you to select which forms you want to filter for. For Zekrom and Reshiram, they only have 1 form anyway, but Landorus has 2 forms. In my case, I only have incarnate form, so we'll leave it like that. So if I close this, if I try to confirm the filters right now, it'll tell you that you need to select a completion status first. So I'll just select both. Oh, and you can also notice when you select completed or both, it'll also show you filters for current games and a finish date range. For in progress, those fields are hidden since they aren't applicable. So let's just filter with both. And as you can see, let me unexpand. As you can see, it filtered for the correct shiny hunts. Next, I can try filtering by origin game. Actually, no, before I do that, I'll demonstrate the other two completion statuses. If I do in progress, it'll show just the Reshiram. And then if I do completed, if I filter for the completed ones, it'll show these three. So now I can also demonstrate filtering by origin game. So let's say I only want to filter for shinies that I caught in Ultra Sun. If I confirm, it'll show only these two since they were the ones that originated from Ultra Sun. And then if I do Ultra Moon, as you can see, you can also select multiple games. If I do Ultra Moon, it'll filter for these two, since they originated in Ultra Moon. And I'm not going to demonstrate the rest of the fields, but I do want to show that you can select date ranges for the start date. So I can filter for any shiny hunts that were started from the 18th to the 25th. Likewise, the finish date range is the same, or functions the same. And then, since I couldn't fit like an unselect button anywhere on here, I decided to make it so that you can unselect the dates by long clicking the buttons. And then counter and phase, you can also specify a range. And also, you don't have to do both of them. You could specify like a minimum or only a maximum. So if you need to clear the filters, you can do so by clicking the Clear Filters button, and that'll give you a confirmation dialog. When you clear the filters, it'll also reset the current sorting method back to the default descending. Before I finish, I would also like to show that I designed the UI of the app with the mindset that it should work on various device sizes and resolutions, and also work with both device orientations. So example with this phone, if I rotate it into landscape mode, you can see that it actually splits the shiny hunt list into two columns. And then if I go to the edit menu, you can see that it put the Pokemon section on the left and then everything else on the right. And I can also show the app on some other devices. For example, here's a small phone API, and I can rotate it. And oops. There we go. Yeah, so I made the UI dynamically resize based on the size of the device. Oops. And here's a tablet API. Let me rotate. And here's this page. Alright, so that is pretty much it for the demonstration of my Pokemon Shiny Tracker app. In the future, I would like to add a Shiny Living Dex progress checker, so players can track how close they are to collecting every shiny, either for the national dex or for any regional dex. I also I'm also thinking about adding a way to export or import shiny hunts in case you have your shiny hunts saved on one device, but you need to transfer them to a different device. And I will also try to keep updating the app if there are any bugs that are discovered and need to be fixed, or if I just think that there are any minor improvements I can make to the app. One of the big things I wanted to fix is the Pokemon selection, because there's a bit of delay when you click the button to open the dialogue. So the app is available to download through my GitHub repository in the description. Installation instructions are in the README file, but I do also plan to create an installation tutorial video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy shiny hunting.